Hello, Kenro, Anodizers RI. Doing a review, my first ever one. We won't see many of these. I just don't like being on cam. Anyway, the K300. This is not ordinarily what the K300 looks like. Why? Because I custom anodized it. Obviously, it's an aluminum mod. The one that I got was silver, so it was kind of blasé. Got it in a trade. Figured, I'm going to custom anodize it. But the review is not about the custom anodizing. The review is about the mod. So, K300 is put out by Kamry or a myriad of other Chinese manufacturers out there. It is a clone of the iHybrid, or not iHybrid, the Juggernaught. Unlike the Juggernaught, however, this is not a Genesis device. It is a VV Nova style atomizer. I'll give you some basic features of it. It has its own custom drip tip, which is made to look to resemble the original Juggernaught atomizer. It's not quite as wide as the original, but still looks pretty cool. It has a tank shield, which can be very easily pulled off, revealing the atomizer on the inside. And it is a standard, everyday, average, ordinary VV Nova style top atomizer with the coil at the top. I don't know the resistance of the wick. It doesn't say on there anywhere what it is. It's just your average, ordinary. Needless to say, it unscrews. Under its hood is a standard average 510 connector. And you can screw in every ordinary. It does have a spring-loaded center post in the 510 connection, so that's kind of nice. That unscrews. Why they decided to add this as unscrewable, I don't honestly know. You can see the top of the battery in there. It just pops right out of there. There's nothing special about that. Because they don't provide anything else to screw into the top of that. Maybe it's just an additional way to take your battery out. I honestly don't know. Maybe it's so that you can get to the bottom of the connections. They didn't elaborate. So, like the Juggernaught, has a bottom firing switch. The switch unscrews. Unlike the Juggernaught, it does not have a lock ring, so you cannot tail stand it and push down on it without it firing. Now, I think the throw on this thing is short enough to where you don't have to worry about it really firing unless you have a really big, tall battery. But mine are just regular, ordinary Sony CGR 18650s, so they're nothing real special about them. They've got the flat top, not the nipple top. The switch itself has a Durlin ring around it. There's a spring. You can pop that off, and you can see the actuator there. When we go into the in-depth, we'll take a look about that in a little bit more depth. It has the 18350 or 18650 extension tube, which you can remove and then screw it in to fire in 18350 mode. And it is much shorter. So let's go into a vape real quick to show you how the default vapes. Oh, might help if I put the battery in. So let's give it a vape. It does have kind of a throaty pull or airy pull to it. There is a lot of airflow through it, which is kind of how I like my mods to hit, but not too throaty or not too airy that you have to take a direct lung hit in order to get good vapor production. That hit wasn't a very good hit, so we're going to take another one. That was a pretty good hit. Anyway, this juice is a custom juice that I make. It is 100% VG and a Irish cream juice, which is pretty good. Another feature that I like, especially with the 510 socket in this thing, is that you can put in any everyday, ordinary, run-of-the-mill VV Nova, and everything fits in there perfectly. So give it a vape. The cap or the drip tip doesn't fit as well in there with the modification that I did. It's doesn't sit down in there, and you have to have a custom drip tip if you do use a standard VV Nova, because this additional diameter here on the drip tip makes it to where it won't fit down far enough in the VV Nova. It does fit in there, so don't get me wrong, but the additional diameter makes it to where it won't fit in there. So this is not Irish cream, orange cream soda from Vapor Bomb. So anyway, so let's take this apart, and we will do the close-up section. Okay, so we have the close-up. I've got the thing torn apart. I've got the tubes here. I've got the switch here, the screw that's irrelevant to this review, the drip tip, the atomizer, and the shield, tank protector. The tank protector sits in the default VV Nova setup, so that it sits down in there flush, but you still have an additional diameter, which is a 510 drip tip socket hole. So when this fits down inside there, you've got the two diameters, one that fits around this, and then one that fits on the inside hole. So if we were to fit that in there like so, you can see that it does not go down all the way. It just stops right here at this extra diameter. Now, I ended up doing a little modification to mine, having a lathe and being able to cut my own O-ring groove. I cut this little groove here so that it would sit inside here, because it did a lot of wobbling. Without that additional O-ring, it did a lot of wobbling, and it was vastly annoying. So by having that additional O-ring in there, it doesn't wobble anymore. So that was kind of one of the bitches or the complaints that I had about the default setup, was without that additional O-ring there, it made it to where it wobbled quite a bit. So unscrew the top section. You can see the VV Nova head. It is adaptable for any standard VV Nova, so you don't have to worry about purchasing specific heads for this particular device. The O-rings seem to fit fairly well. It is not a Pyrex or glass tank. It is a acrylic or plastic, so I have no doubt whatsoever that if you were to put acidic juices in it, that it would eat through it in a pretty quick. The bottom does unscrew as well. As to whether or not you could use anything else, I honestly don't know. And as I mentioned before, it does have a spring-loaded center post in here, so it makes good connection. I've been using this thing now for 4 days. In the 4 days, I have noticed a little beating around this little section right here where just a small amount of juice leaks out. It is not significant. I have not noticed any juice leaking out of the bottom, unlike some of the VVs that I've got, which will leak down through the atomizer. This one does not seem to be doing so, but I haven't been vaping on it long enough to really know for sure. The 510 connection, it does have vent holes, so we don't have to worry about vent holes causing an issue. If your battery blows up or starts outgassing, you've got 4 vent holes on that thing to prevent it from blowing up on you. Bottom side is pretty simple. I tried to push that down a little bit further so that it sticks out a little bit further. I could not get it to do so. I might try and push it the other way and see if that pin will come out of there, and then the Delrin will come out, because I would like to replace that with a floating center post, but that's something that will be done at a later point in time. The threads on this thing are nice. You don't feel any burrs. It's not overly sharp. I mean, like all small, fine Chinese threads, it's going to be a little bit sharp, but there's nothing they can do to prevent that with the small thread pitch that they've got on these things. That fits down in there pretty well. It's got an O-ring for the tank protector so that it can fit on there without a tank in place, and the O-ring holds it pretty well. The switch itself, I wasn't too impressed with the switch. With the spring and the Delrin setup on this thing is kind of funky. It can be pulled out. You can pull off the C-clip there, and you can pull the button out. This has kind of got a strong push to it, so I was thinking about the possibility of replacing it with a slightly lower, less tensioned spring so that it was a little bit easier to push. But it doesn't seem to be an issue. I can still pinky fire it pretty well. I'm just picky. With that Delrin in place, it does not go all the way out, so we don't need to worry about it shorting out unless there's a battery in there. When the battery is in there, it pushes down, and then when you push on it, it makes contact, so it pushes down and then up comes your... So there is the K300. It is overall a very nice device. I like it for its price. I got this in trade, so I did not have to pay for it. Well, I had to pay for the device, or the drip tips that I made, that I got in, that I gave up in trade, so I didn't get it for free. It performs very well. The voltage drop across it was very low. Because it is aluminum, it transfers electricity very efficiently, which is something that is a real big thing for me. I don't like stainless steel mods because they're too heavy. They don't feel right in my hands. I've got big hands, but I don't like holding big bulky things. So having this in aluminum was a plus for me as far as I was concerned. So let's pop the camera back up over here, change my focus, and we'll give you some final thoughts on this thing. $70 was what this was retailing for from the one site that I saw it. It was a stainless steel one, I believe. Either that or it was the silver one. I can't quite recall. if the stainless steel one was a little bit more expensive. But stainless steel is your thing, then you can pick it up in stainless steel. I'm a big fan of VV Novas, so I like this device a lot. I'm not a big fan of the copying or cloning, but since they only copied the exterior aesthetics only, the look and feel of the device, I don't have a problem in getting this particular device, especially since it's a VV Nova style as opposed to the Genesis style. Had they gone with the Genesis device in this thing, I probably would have had a little bit more of an issue with purchasing it. At the same time, I think that cloning, copying somebody's work is the sincerest form of flattery. So, if somebody's going to copy something that I do, I obviously think that I've done something good and it's worthy of copying. Now, with the Chinese, that's not necessarily so. That it could very well be that they're just looking to make a little bit more money. Not that it's a good device, or that they think that it's a good device. So we'll give it a final vape and we'll bid you guys adieu. The K300. Pick one up if you can. See you guys later.